The government has been looking for more sources of energy to supply the country's electricity needs. And recently, there have been renewed talks about tapping nuclear energy. Now, what can we get from using it? Joining us now live via Zoom is nuclear advocate Mark Nelson. He's also the founder and managing director of Radiant Energy Group, which offers strategic advice for energy transition. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for joining us. Mark, you've been in the country for a few days now, holding meetings and a summit as well. What's been discussed so far?
Yeah, the same thing is being discussed in the Philippines that I'm hearing all over the world. I've just come from Estonia, from Germany, from the UK, from Poland, and one thing is on the mind of every leader in industry and politics: the price of electricity. It's an absolute crisis, by the way.
Okay, well, you're working closely with Pangasinan Representative Mark Juanco, who's also the chairman of the House Committee on Nuclear Energy. As you said, electricity, power generation remains to be one of the top priorities all over the world. Nuclear energy has always been on the table, and there's always been discussions on the pros and cons and arguments for and against. As an advocate of nuclear energy, how would you sell it?
For me, it's quite simple. The only way we know to make cheap, reliable, and clean energy at the same time is nuclear power.
Okay.
Although some countries have the option of using very large hydroelectric dams, the amount of disruption of the environment and people is making it much less popular nowadays. That leaves just nuclear energy as a power source that can operate very steadily, day, night, regardless of whether there's a typhoon or not. Nuclear power keeps working. And because it only uses a tiny amount of fuel, nuclear energy gives countries independence from the ups and downs of commodity cycles, which is particularly important for a country like the Philippines, which must import much of its fuel.
Right. Obviously, there are countries that are better equipped to work with nuclear. How would you rate the Philippines and our readiness to work with more nuclear power supply?
To me, the readiness to work with nuclear energy is a little bit like the readiness to safely fly passenger aircraft. So if you can have airports and you can have airplanes with Filipino pilots in it that can fly around at 800, 900 kilometers per hour over open ocean where no one could survive a wreck, and yet the safety of the passenger aircraft is nearly absolutely assured, that's a country that's ready to do the same thing for nuclear energy, in my opinion.
Right. Here in the Philippines, we have the Bataan nuclear power plant, which I believe you visited along with Congressman Juanco. It was built way back in 1984, 40 plus years ago, but it was never utilized. Some groups are against it, saying the rehabilitation of this power plant is costly and potentially dangerous. Your reaction to that? You likened nuclear to flying an airplane, but we're talking about an airplane that's almost 40 years old. What is your reaction on the Bataan nuclear power plant?
Sure. Well, unlike airplanes, nuclear plants get better and better and better with age. The best performing nuclear plants tend to be the nuclear plants with the most amount of experience. So in the United States, there are nuclear plants that were constructed and entered service 15 years before Bataan nuclear power plant and are at their absolute best performance today. Safest and most reliable performance as we're speaking right now. So for me, that age is not going to be the main question I have with Bataan. My main question with Bataan nuclear power plant is that it needs to be loved by the public for them to embrace the opening of the plant. Otherwise, I think that it's difficult to argue that just because it would lower energy prices for the whole nation and reduce your reliance on foreign fossil fuels, I think that the democratic sentiment around the plant is changing. I get the feeling it is changing, but it needs to continue to increase before the public can embrace the opening of that facility. The energy price crisis, though, as I'm seeing in other countries, is causing a radical change of opinion about what's worth it or not worth it in opening nuclear plants near your home.
How much work is required to get the Bataan nuclear power plant up and running?
We're about to find out. Foreign experts have been examining the plant, experts who have a great deal of familiarity with exactly the same power unit, so that reactor inside and the equipment needed to run it are a near exact copy of several other facilities around the world. So after those experts are submitting their report, we'll learn a lot more. But I mean, obviously, everything I saw looked to be in fine condition. It's just been kept almost like a museum to a future that has not yet arrived. So we'll be waiting for that report soon to see what would be required. My sense, my intuition is that it would be a few years and something like $1 or $2 billion USD, which for the power output of a plant like that is a very good bargain, I think, since it's already built.
All right, Mark, that's quite a lot to think about. Food for thought. Thank you to nuclear advocate Mark Nelson.